right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to You Have Me Beat. I'm K Rain, and today we have anti-rage beat. So let's talk a little bit about rage beats. Um, I'm not the biggest fan, but I can appreciate what it's doing, what it has done. For the underground scene of hip hop. Um, I feel like my first exposure to what you could consider a almost proto rage beat is the song "Look at Me" by XXX Rest in peace. It was produced by Roja and Jimmy Duvall, I believe. But yeah, first time hearing that, I was like, oh boy, this is different. You know, the rattling 808s and the lot of thumping ass kick drums. Yeah, that was something. Felt like this was a shift in an underground scene of hip hop, which became more mainstream, right? Um, yeah, there's that song, and then the producer alone, Ronnie J, has done so much for that scene too, like with Smoke Perp, Lil Pump, all those people. Like that was kind of like the early becomings of what we could consider modern rage beats. And then we have Whole Lotta Red, which is pretty much where I feel like it found its true identity with Filthy on production. Like that's where I would go to if you've never heard a rage beat before. Whole Lotta Red. Yeah. But I think it's pretty cool, for what it did for the underground rap scene again. But I feel like, it just kind of got a little bit too redundant for my liking. So I don't really revisit that kind of stuff very often. I'm not really into all the new stuff too, but I think the people doing that stuff is they're cool. Like in person, it's just the sound isn't really for me. Um, but what I will say is that rage in general is pretty diverse. You know, if you take a look at um, like on a sonic point of view, like what's going on in not the modern stuff, but just before we got where we are now, I want to say that rage style is like a good fuse of like hyper pop and trap or melodic hip hop, if you will. That fusion is kind of what you could consider what came just before where we are now. That style of rage beats is kind of cool. And then, obviously hyperpop borrows a lot from EDM. But in my honest opinion, I feel like the real rage beats, where it came from, I want to say it's IDM. Otekra, Aphex Twin. Shout out Aphex Twin. Like, for me, yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about Aphex Twin in a bit. I'm gonna play this track. This track again, it's not a rage beat by any means, but I want to say it's rage adjacent. There's a specific part where it gets a little wild, but not too wild. So let's play the beat. My DAW, my digital audio workspace. It's a little, yeah. It trips out every now and again, so just bear with me, okay? But I'm gonna play the beat and then we're gonna talk a little bit more. section. This is the section I'm talking about right here. And yeah, that's the beat. I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty clean. It definitely holds up. It's gonna probably hold up in a couple years still. Um, but yeah, I feel like again, it's not a rage beat by any means, but it's rage adjacent at least to this modern era of underground hip hop. Um, but I feel like rage is becoming its own little subgenre. I feel like it already is its own kind of little underworld. But yeah, specifically this section over here, like that's it's cool. It's like a little bit of a contrast to what's going on in the rest of the track. I just thought it'd be fun to like throw that in there, you know. But I feel like what makes this beat rage adjacent, it doesn't really have much to do with the sonic palette. It has nothing to do with what's going on instrumentally. It's more about like it's emotive. It's pretty emotive, I would say, and that's what makes it a little bit ragey. Um, the vocal passages, right? Feels like there's a rage going on, right? A little war going on this section over here. To me, it has nothing to do with the synths. For me, it's really about that vocal passage. So we're gonna explore that a little bit more, and there's another part in the beat that I want to bring into it also, and that's pretty much it. You know, because yeah, this beat. So back to when I made this beat, it was literally just last year, but it's very different to the stuff that I normally make because the style of production was analog production. Like I made a whole analog drum kit, and analog production in general is just kind of like it's just very stripped back to almost like its raw form. That's what analog production is. And if you're not doing that, then it's just literally just pretty much live instruments. But the drums obviously aren't live instruments. Just stripped back to its raw form. And I thought it's pretty cool. And just like analog media in general, I feel like it's pretty mainstream right now. Like there's a lot going on in analog horror and like the liminal horror, you know, just analog technology in general. It's the thing right now, you know. 90s are in, you know. What can I say? So, yeah. So let's just play this section one more time and then we're going to start stripping things even more back, right? feel like this whole section alone is just like it could be a whole nother song. I feel. So what I'm gonna do? Oh yeah, it's already pitched down. Okay. I'm gonna clone it. When it comes to cloning tracks in FL Studio, you just gotta make sure that you remember exactly what you did and where you did it. You can either do that or export the track as like a separate sample, but I don't want to do that in this video. You see what I'm trying to do here. That works for me. Okay, so we already have like foundation for a whole nother track, which is pretty much what we're doing in this video. Now what I want to do, so I touched on it in the last video, the weekend video, but Fruity Convolver, we're gonna revisit Fruity Convolver in a second. Okay. preset that we are working with today, it's called IMP Cabinet Model E. So a cabinet model, essentially, it's, well, this one in particular, it's based off of a bass guitar amp, right? It's pretty much supposed to simulate a guitar amplifier. And you might be thinking, wow, that's kind of weird to use it for a plugin or a track that's not a guitar, but hear me out, right? Um, we are literally trying to make a sound more raw than it's already presented to be, right? So a plugin like this is gonna essentially make it more analog, right? Which is kind of what we're working with over here. And then another thing that I didn't really do in the last video is pretty much discuss more of the tools going on over here. So when you have a preset selected in Fruity Convolver, it shows you like the raw waveform as is, and you can also just play it in its current form without the plugin, or sorry, without the track alone, right? So literally this IMP cabinet model E, it's just a little clip. That's all it is. So when we have the wetness applied to the track, this is what it sounds like now. And it's cool because it not only does it sound more analog, it sounds kind of like, yeah, I mean, all things that make analog sounding. It's more lo-fi, it's kind of a little bit muffled, and it adds to the eeriness which we are trying to create in this video. Yeah, so far so good. All right. So far, I'm happy with that, so I'm not really going to touch on that any further. The only other sound in the mix that I wanted to tweak a little bit is this one over here. Sorry, one sec. If you're curious about the sound, it's a reed. It's a reed, and it comes with a chorus, right? There's a chorus effect, and it has reverb on it already, but it's a reed. So for this, oops, sorry. For this track, the reed, We are also going to apply the Fruity Convolver, but we're using a different preset. It's just the blur, white noise. So if you go presets, it's a little bit cut off, but it's literally the second one, blur white. That's the one we're using, and it's titled White Noise. I'm gonna crank up the wetness, just enough to match, the vocals going on, and kind of in the left panning. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so a little sidetrack. So I did say I was gonna bring Aphex Twin back into the discussion, right? So what I'm saying is, I feel like real rage beats comes from IDM, early IDM, and specifically early Aphex Twin. From his EPs. I want to say from '91 to '93. Like, check out Analog Bubble Bath or Didgeridoo classics right there. Specifically the tracks, you can check out 73 Yips. You can check out Floam. And you can also check out ISO Proflex. Those three tracks right there, those are some of my favorite Aphex Twin tracks. And if you just listen to the production, like, not only are those tracks analog, you can kind of hear how one can, establish that as like a precursor to what we almost had, you know, I want to say mid 20, the 2010s, like the SoundCloud stuff, like just before XXX Tentacion, that kind of stuff. Like, you can kind of hear it. You can kind of hear it, but a completely different sound, right? And I feel like with IDM, melody is there, but melody isn't really important. Melody is more important when it comes to like EDM and stuff like that. IDM focuses more on just like more intricate, rhythmic patterns, drum breaks and stuff like that. So that's why it's really cool, and the analog production is very prevalent, right? And over here, what we are establishing here is, it's rage, but it's an anti-rage beat, right? It's still rage, right? But it's an anti-rage beat, and I feel like more artists need to experiment more with not just noise, but just things that are adjacent to what's going on already, right? Okay, so if you don't like what's going on over here, you can always tweak it a little bit more to your liking. So in the last video, with the weekends video, I talked more about some of these tools. Now let's talk about this one over here. These ones, there's not much you can do over here, but this one I want to say is the most essential to editing sounds to your liking. So this is called a volume envelope. And what this does, it's like a little grid. So it pretty much takes the waveform and maps it out based on what's going on. And a lot of music is pretty much physics, right? So over here, this is kind of when the sound just comes in. So that's called an attack. And then at the top here, that's pretty much the peak of the sound. And right after the peak, we have a decay. And then usually around here, it's kind of like a little medium. So that's pretty much like the current waveform, I want to say. Like the most of what you hear is the medium, and that's pretty much called sustain. The sustained sound, if you will. And then the aftermath, what you hear kind of like that follows after the wave, is called release, right? So there's some food for thought. So let's play the track or the section of the track we're working on. Again, not only is the volume envelope detailing what I just mentioned, it's also a little bit of an EQ, right? We got the sub, the bass, the mids, and the high range, which is pretty low. It's the mids that are pretty peaking, right? See, if I take this all the way up here, you can definitely hear the difference there. So I feel like you kind of get the idea of where I'm coming from and, trying to go. I feel like this is something that could stay the way it is. It could have a bit of a progression, but I feel like if you were to add a bit of a progression, meaning, to change the melody a little bit, or the loop, if you will, then something else would need to happen. Quite clearly, it's sounding kind of like horror-esque, and I feel like with something like this, something as eerie as this sound, I feel like it'd be cool to have like a sound effect, like some chainsaws or some hammers going on, and like a scream and stuff like that. That stuff's really cool. Now, obviously, there's a lot more I could try here, but I kind of just want to give you like a little nudge to go further. Inspire someone to do something a lot cooler than what's going on here. Anti-rage beat, right there. Yeah, so I think that wraps up this video, at least as much as I wanted to showcase and demonstrate. I feel like after I upload this video, this channel is definitely gonna evolve. I'm kind of heading into like a new direction. If you follow my main channel, I feel like you can tell where I'm going. But I just feel like you have to follow your curiosity at the end of the day, and that's essentially what I'm doing right now. There's so much I could teach, but I feel like it just has to reach the right people, and yeah, it just has to reach the right people at the end of the day. And I think with what I'm trying to do moving forward, I guess we'll see. We'll see where we go. But I'm not stopping. We're gonna keep making shit, but it's gonna be so different. Um, Yeah. But if you're interested in, getting actual virtual lessons from me, like virtual music production lessons, send me an email, krainsound@outlook.com. And you can also follow the Instagram page for this account at you have me beat. And you can also just subscribe to my main channel because I'm pretty active there. I'm pretty consistent there. Here, it's like I've been kind of consistent for a bit, but here and there, it's like I wouldn't say I'm slipping. It's just like I'm busy with so many different projects. Like I'm working on so many different things at once, right? Again, like this is like my third YouTube channel. We got You Have Me Beat, we got K Rain Sound, and we got Rain Some, right? Where all my hardcore shit is at, right? So there's a lot going on. Um, but I'm a fucking octopus. Like I'm juggling everything all at once, and I think that's just how it is as a creative. You just have to juggle, and it's fun. Um, but yeah, expect a lot more cool stuff from me. Moving forward. I can't exactly say what it is, but I don't know if you're really intuitive. Maybe you can kind of foresee where I'm going. But yeah, it's gonna be really fun, and I'm having fun with it. So I guess just stay tuned, right? And again, if you're new here, just give me a like, subscribe, and if you're not new, thanks for rocking with me still. It's gonna get way, way more cooler moving forward. All right, thank you.